Hi,
So for the start, could you please briefly introduce yourself?
I'm a adjunct lecturer at AUA. I teach a visual communication course which is open to senior students. It's a BA in CHSS, so English and Communication program.
And when did you realize that you belong to art?
I was lucky because I was born to a family of a painter, so I was, surrounded by art from the day I was born. So it was a natural decision for me to. I was interested very much in history, also in the ancient world, ancient history. But put history aside, the visual world is my world, and visual language is my language. So I think from age of 15, 16, it was already clear to me that this is what I want to do.
Have you ever hesitated whether to continue the career path or not?
No, because I was good at what I was doing, so I was not, there was no doubt in my mind that art is what I want to do. So no hesitation.
And what was the very first work that you created? Do you
Oh,
remember?
well, because I went to study painting in a college. So in the beginning, my father was a teacher of drawing for 40 years. So when I wanted to get into the school, I basically didn't know how to draw anything. So because I was reading a lot of books on mythology and history, and that was my main interest. So I had no skill of drawing at all. And my dad kind of put me on that way and said, okay, so you have to start with the very basics. And so I started to learn how to sketch, and it was very difficult in the beginning, and nothing good was coming out, but you get better with time. So I can't tell you which work I've drawn, because it probably didn't survive either. It was probably that bad. So you get in the beginning it's difficult because you have to struggle until something good comes out, and a lot of the time people feel frustrated because they can't really produce anything that looks good, and it's easy to give up. But if you love something, you have to sacrifice your time, your energy, a lot of the things for you to be good at what you do. So this is the first steps that you take.
And where did you study?
I studied in College of Art after Terlemezan, Panos Terlemezan. He was a well-known Armenian painter, and it was a 4-year program of painting. So we studied all the disciplines related to painting, and painting itself, of course.
So you made a big contribution to the Velvet Revolution, and you were even called the painter of the revolution. And what did the revolution mean for you?
Look, it's an interesting question. And for me, the first and the most important thing was that whatever I was doing at that time was my reflection of what was going on outside. So it was a people's movement, it was your movement, because it would never happen if the students were not part of it, big part of it. You were the driving force behind this revolution. And my generation, which is older than yours by good 20 years, was at the beginning was a little bit more passive, and with time got more and more involved in the process. But I'm an artist, right? So, and I love poster art, and I love calligraphy. So this was a natural kind of blend what I could do well with what was necessary to be done at that time. Because when there is a major shift in a country, and it was a major shift, it's a political art. It's a form of a political art. I also taught you that in a course that you took. So I knew I can write well. I knew I can do it quickly, and it was necessary to be done quickly, because you had to reflect very quickly on what was going on. So put me aside as an artist. It was a life-changing event at that time. It was just the beginning, and we are still in a process of understanding what it really was. But it was a first step.
Okay, and what or who was your motivation to do the posters?
I wanted people to reflect and understand better what's happening to them. Because you talk through art, you're trying to tell them, look at yourself in a mirror, look what you're feeling at this moment. And it was a collective feeling that was expressed through this medium of poster design, poster art.
And was it your first experience of making social political?
No, it wasn't. I started the project in 2001. I was living in Netherlands then, in Amsterdam. And I wanted to help the recognition of Armenian genocide in Netherlands. So I started a graphic design poster competition and got designers from all over the world involved in that. And I designed a lot of posters myself. So we wanted the Dutch people to know about Armenian genocide, and so we realized this project, and 5 posters were printed. We hanged them at the night of April 24 in 2001 in Amsterdam, and I'm proud to say that I think 4 or 5 years later the Dutch Parliament recognized Armenian genocide. At that time it was a big deal, because the Dutch were not really certain about their position on this question. There was a big Turkish community in Netherlands, a very tiny Armenian community. So, but Dutch people are very adamant about human rights, and it's important for them to be vocal about it. But Armenian genocide was a problematic question. And I'm happy to say that they stuck to the principles, and Netherlands today is a country that recognizes Armenian genocide. So that was my first experience. The second one was the Electric Yerevan, which also was a good opportunity to create artwork. And it was funny that these big PVC boards that I was using to draw the posters were also used by the same kids that were protesting. They would sleep on them at night, because they would just put them on the ground and spend the night sleeping on that big PVC board. So, and the third one was the revolution of 2018.
And where did you find the inspiration for the posters?
It was a lot of different things going on at that time, because the Facebook feed was full of ideas. Some of them just came naturally to me. Sometimes I would just take words like freedom and write them in a big size on a PVC board, because that one word can express a lot of different things, But there were also different and very interesting expressions that people were coming up with, and I used them also. I don't take credit for them, of course, because I didn't come up with an idea, but I used the copy to write it and make a poster out of it. So yeah, there were quite a few.
And what are those quotes written on the posters that you have come up by yourself?
By myself, okay. So, well, it's not really. First thing that I did was to use the expression by the American president. I think it was Jefferson. Yeah, Thomas Jefferson, that said, when injustice becomes law, resistance becomes a duty. So that was the best way to put it. I wrote it in Armenian and in English, but I did what I did myself was mostly not. Was one work that I like a lot, which says "Ճանապարհը քայլելով ենք կերտում," which means you pave the road by walking. I also can't really take credit for it because it's a common saying and people say that. So I didn't really sit and come up with slogans or things like that. I would tap into everything that was around me. Because it's one thing that you write something on your, make a post on Facebook, but it's not an artwork. It may be a good idea, but to turn this into a poster, somebody needs to take this idea and write it, in a big scale. So I wasn't really thinking too much about copy, but how to take these different ideas that were floating around and turn them into artwork.
How were you spreading the posters?
I would just take them to the street and give them to the people.
And what was their reaction?
What?
What was their reaction?
For lots of them, it was they were surprised that somebody's doing this. They would take them, and I quickly realized that they're just taking them home. I mean, the idea was that I make a poster and give it to you. You take it to the street and it's seen. But then the next day, it's not one-time event. It took us a month maybe, or 2-3 weeks until we managed to achieve something. So I see these posters disappearing. I keep drawing them, but they're just gone the next day. So I realized that people probably saw a value in them as artwork. Or maybe it was important for them to have them as a memory, so they would just take them home. So I had to keep drawing more and more and more and more. So some people liked to hold something in their hands, but some people are lazy and they don't want to carry things, So it depends.
And have you physically participated in the protest?
Oh, from the first day.
And were you using your posters?
Yes, I was out there. There are photographs I can share with you of all that thing. It was filmed and there were quite a lot of photos taken. So I was using them myself, but I'm just one person, and the idea was to draw as many as I can and give them out, and so people can. They start popping up in different places in the city. So, people would just take them.
And was it difficult to give your works to the strangers?
It's difficult to part with something you put so much energy into it. But I knew that for me the most important thing was to deliver a message. So I let go. Artists need to be able to let go of his work.
Could you describe the process of creation?
Well, okay, so unfortunately I don't have a studio, so I only have like a little room in an apartment that I'm renting, and it has a big white round table. So I would just take the PVC boards, put them on a table, take a big pump marker, it's called, you put an acrylic paint in it so you can write in a big size. So I would just use acrylic paint and brushes and markers on PVC board. Just write something, but acrylic takes time to dry. So my house was I went because it's too little and the works are big. So I could not stack them on the wall because the paint would smear if it's not dry. So I was using matchboxes just to put them on a PVC board and put another one so they won't touch each other. So I had like a big stack of posters. I was writing very quickly and just putting matchboxes and then write another one and put it on top. So because I had no physical space just to to put them next in the house. So that was the way I was working at that time.
And what is the most precious poster to you?
Actually, there is one poster that I wish I would find it because it's. I think it's one of the first ones that I did, and there is a photograph of that poster with the kids on a street. It's a beautiful picture. They're sitting on a car, and they hold this poster in their hand, and it's in English. And I've never seen it afterwards. I made it. I wrote freedom on it, and I wrote freedom from Sergic and his gang. Was the text on the poster, and it disappeared. So I'm sure it's somebody has it, but I would really like to see it again. So it was probably one of my favorite things because it was one of the first things that I did.
Have you ever counted them? How many posters are there?
I have. I think I drew at that time around 50, maybe more. Maybe around I think maybe around 60 or something like that. I still have about 25 works at my house, those that I was doing at a later stage, and it's a nice collection. So an art collector from United States bought half of that. They're still at my house because she said I want them to remain in Armenia. I don't want to take them out. It's part of our history. So I'm waiting for her to come and pick it up someday, and maybe we'll have them on a permanent display somewhere.
And how do you think, were there any other artists making posters for the exhibition?
Well, that was the strangest thing, that I was the only one who was doing that. And to me, it signifies something. It means that we didn't invest enough into art education. If we did, I would not be the only one who was doing that. There would be other artists that would write and create artwork, about this. But I was the only one who was doing that. So there were different forms of expression. Some guy just took a marker and wrote stuff on his car, a white Niva, if you remember that. There was a white car that was all drawn and written on it. But that's not exactly what I was doing, it was different. So one thing is to create a poster, and calligraphic poster, because it's written by hand and it's important that it's beautiful. The other thing is randomly write some stuff on any surface, on walls or on cars or T-shirts or whatever. So sadly I was the only one.
And were you alone, or you had a crew team?
No, I didn't have a team. One thing was good, that at the time because the materials cost money, and I didn't have money to pay for it myself. So what I did, I contacted the people behind the movement, Nicole Pashinyan's team, and how is the party called? Civil Contract, right? And I told them, I want to help you. So just make sure you get me the materials that I need. And they went and they bought PVC boards and they gave them to me so I could work. So Physically, I didn't have any help, but the civil contract helped me just to get the art materials for it. So.
Were there any posters which remained unpublicized due to gifts to anyone?
There are a few that are still at my house, and I didn't really put them anywhere. But most of the work went out and was seen.
What did the posters supposed to trigger in people?
You know, when something's happening to you, it's very nice when you have a mirror to look into. So art is a mirror. It's very, very important to understand that art is a mirror. And art helps you to understand who you are and what's happening to you. And at that time, the art was made for people to realize and process the information that was happening, what was happening to them at that time. It was an awakening, right? Unprecedented in our history, in our modern history. Nothing like that ever on this scale ever happened to us. So it was important to tell the people, look, this is huge, this is big, this is we're never going to be the same. So that was the idea, that people would reflect through art to the change that was happening to them and to the country as a whole.
Did all the posters have a unique meaning, or they represented the same?
No, for example, I took, there was a nice expression, I don't know who came up with this, but that was really nice. You know, there is an Armenian expression, Gna meri ari sirem. So somebody said, Gna merji ari sirem, merji is to deny, right? So I wrote that, and I wrote maybe like 10, 15 posters with that. So when there was a good idea, I wouldn't write one. I would write like 5 or 10 works and just, you know, then give them out to the people. So.
And how do you assess the role of art in politics?
At this moment in time, we don't give it the significance that it deserves. Just in general, our art as a means of communication, as a means of saying something, for us, unfortunately, slowly art becomes just a wallpaper, which completely discredits it. Art is not a wallpaper. Art is not a decoration. Art is a very powerful tool to make people think, to make people reflect. So I'm an advocate of intellectual art that has a meaning. There is not just a decoration or a pretty thing that you hang on a wall and forget about it. It's a message. It's a powerful tool to make people feel. And process and think and reflect. And so, but unfortunately, art is on decline, and the whole effort is to revive it, to bring it back into our lives, and to help us be better human beings.
What do you think is more thought-provoking? Art which is eye-pleasing, or which is, on the contrary, purposefully not in the sense of beauty?
Look, it's aesthetics, visual aesthetics. If they're reflective of a content, of a meaning, because when we say art, we can understand many different things. So, take abstraction, abstract art. What does it make you feel? Does it make you more feel or more think? Is it appeals to your cognitive part of you, or more an emotional part of you? So you can't really say that art works in a very different ways. Okay, so abstract art will make you more feel than think, and a figurative art will probably be more intellectual in that sense, and force you to think about what is the artist trying to say. So aesthetics, just appearance of art on its own is nothing if there is no meaning behind it, for me at least. You know, I'm not an abstract painter. For me, abstraction is difficult to understand, but maybe it's because I'm trying to understand it. I'm not trying to feel it, I'm trying to understand it, and it's my problem. It's not a problem of the artwork, it's my problem that I'm not looking it in the right way. I'm trying to understand it with my mind instead of trying to, you know, to feel what is it supposed to make me feel. Yeah, I think that's it.
And what is the difference between your aesthetically pleasing posters and the posters that people were making by themselves?
Oh, okay. Look, whatever people were doing at that time, there was just, you know, they would print stuff on a computer. They would just take, I don't know, write something and print it on a little piece of paper. So you can't call that artwork. That's not art. Art is something else. You use material, you put a lot of energy into this. You're trying to create something beautiful and powerful at the same time. So if you ask me, would I compare a little message printed with the help of a computer on a piece of paper and a poster that I put so much energy and I'm trying to make it look beautiful and look perfect? I mean, these are two very different things. So are not really. It's not possible to compare them. It's just comparing, you know, apples with watermelons. It's just two different things.
Have you created anything with a social, political focus after the revolution?
No. For me now, it's we are in a very complicated phase at this moment. So yes, I did a couple of things, and they were mostly related to the ecological problems that we have at this moment, especially connected with Amulsar, the gold mine that is might have a catastrophic impact on our life. So I wrote Amulsar, and I turned this into a little symbol. And for me, it's important, and I keep doing that because I think it's a fundamental issue for us. So I am part of this world as a human being and as an artist. So because I can't stay silent, I will keep making art about things that trouble me, and I want people to think about that too. So beauty will work its way. So make people maybe change and think about important things other than just, you know, taking the fish out of the sea or the trees out of the forest.
How did you feel as the painter of the revolution?
Look, I didn't. First, I didn't call myself that. Somebody else did. I was. It wasn't at all about me. And I think we have a big problem as a society that is always focused on the individuals instead of focusing at the bigger things. It's not about per se me, you, or anybody else. There are bigger questions now. Where do we go as a nation? You know, what kind of a country do we want for ourselves and for you? You are going to be the ones who's going to live in it. So these questions go beyond individuals, and it was flattering, of course, to hear that people, you know, call you that. But I don't think I was. I think I was just I was doing what I thought was right. To me, the disappointing part was that nobody, and I know quite a lot of people, designers, painters, not one of my friends were doing anything at that time with what they could do. They could design powerful work, but they were not doing that, and I'm disappointed in that sense. I was expecting not to be the only one who was doing that, but for some reason they didn't feel inspired, or maybe they were thinking about different things. So I'm happy. It taught me a lot of things.
Looking back on the revolution, what do you feel now?
Look, it's. I might ask you that question back. Do you think it was a revolution, or was it just a change of governance? These are important questions, and I don't think they are being asked enough. Because when you do a revolution, you have the purpose of the revolution is to break the will, break the system. You know what that means, to break the system? Not change the people in the system, but break the system and build a better system that will not be so easily corrupted. Has that happened? That's an open question. So I look back and I miss those days, because they were very beautiful days, full of, so much energy, and there was so much hope, unbelievable hope that we all had. Is it still there? I don't know. It's a difficult question for me to answer. We feel a lot of disappointment, but we can't let go of the hope that we had. I had much more expectation than what actually is realized at this point. I was hoping to see more, faster, bigger changes, more, less compromise, more sticking to the ideals. And unfortunately, I see less of being that adamant about the principles and more trying to find, an easier way. So it's a difficult process, and I don't think it's over. I think it's a continuous process, and only time will answer that question, whether it was really a revolution or was it just a change of power and change of people in the system. Time will only answer that.
What do you think, did all the posters contribute to the results that we had?
One thing I can say is that I'm happy to look at the beautiful artwork that was made. I don't know what did it change at that time. Maybe it did change something in people, maybe it didn't. It's not for me to say. I know that I created beautiful things, and for me that's enough. I could transfer the energy into art, and maybe because I was prepared before. For me, poster art is a difficult art. It's a very difficult art. You have to be a real professional to do it. So I was prepared because I did the posters of the Genocide, and then there was Electric Yerevan. So I was ready for it. So that's why probably I could realize these works. If I wasn't prepared, maybe wouldn't be so successful. But I'm happy that art was made. For me, that's already a big thing.
Thank you very much for the interview.
Well, you're most welcome, Ellen.
It was a great finish.